Hey, welcome to Beyond Film School, and today we're getting into the SAG Exhibit G. Now, when CPAs start embarking on staff positions, sometimes you are going to be doing cast. You're going to be the first team runner, and that entails filling out the Exhibit G for SAG, and this gets filled out every day, and when you see the form, it can get very overwhelming. So we're going to go block by block, bit by bit. I'm going to explain what each thing means and what you're going to be putting there. And we're going to talk about some of the rules that go along with why certain things are going to be filled out the way they are. So starting off, it's going to say Exhibit G, and it's going to say SAG after on it. If it doesn't, then I'd be concerned because this form gets submitted to SAG every day. And if it doesn't, they get very upset with you. So just know that they are going to be expecting this every day, but not directly from you because you are going to be sending this at the end of the day. You're going to give it to the office and the office takes care of it from there. Unless you are doing indie productions where you might be an assistant director and you might have to email it to your SAG representative. So we're just going to start with the production company. The production company is going to be on the top left corner of your call sheet. If you're getting to the Exhibit G, you're going to have a little bit more experience on set. So when I talk about the call sheet, I'm hoping that you understand what I'm saying. If not, then you can totally put those comments down below with your questions for sure. Series title, let's just say for the sake of argument, we are shooting Blue Bloods. You would just put Blue Bloods season, I don't know, what are they on, like season 11? I have no idea. So season whatever. So Blue Bloods season, whatever the season it is. Okay, episode name is usually gonna be a number, but sometimes they are titled. I always put the number and then also the title if it is available, because sometimes when you're shooting it, they don't have names for the episode per se. Production number, this is a number that comes from SAG that is given to production. This number would come from the production coordinator. They are going to have that number. If you need it, you are going to phone the office, ask for the production coordinator. If you are not already familiar with this person, I'm hoping you are. And this is when you're first starting out, this is like kind of like the initial conversation that you're going to have with them. And they're going to give you the production number, or sometimes they'll just fill it in at the end of the night so that it's going to be on there regardless. So this might be something you might not have to worry about, but your SAG representative will have it and they're going to give it to the production coordinator, or you can get it from your production coordinator. So the contact, and I think I've said production coordinator so many times, that your contact on this sheet is going to be the name of the production coordinator, whoever that is. Or if you are working in independent film, then that might be the UPM, the production manager, production supervisor. It might be you, who knows. In the indie world, it gets a little more flexible, but whoever is in contact with the SAG representative for your show is going to be the person that gets put in this box. Okay, the phone number. Your phone number is going to be the phone number that's on the call sheet. It is going to be just the production office phone number. Date, that's the day you're shooting. If I didn't mention this, this gets filled out every single day of shooting. Moving on to the day. So this is day of whatever. So for example, one episode of a TV show could be 9 days, and this is the first day of shooting, so you would put day 1 of 9, right? Or 2 of 7. This usually is going to be on the top of the call sheet. If it is not, I am very sorry, but for the most part, the day out of whatever how many shooting days there are is going to be on the top right of your call sheet. And also going on to the shooting location. The shooting location is going to be the address of set. That is also on the call sheet. It is usually right next to the scene. So moving on to the boxes of the Exhibit G. And we're going to talk about this little box here. This is kind of like your key. Those letters mean those things, right? And you're going to use these letters here, and they're going to go in this column here. And that tells you the status of the actor. Okay, so W means worked, F means finished, S means started, not photographed, and rehearsal, test, hold, fitting, travel. What all that means. Okay, so worked means they worked that day, right? So usually at the start of an episode, you will have SW. So that means they started work, right? You'll put SW in there. It's their first day. Now let's say it's their second day on set. That's when you put a W. That means they worked. Now, okay, it is their last day on set. So let's say it's their last day. It's day 3, and you put WF. They worked and they finished work. Now, another example is going to be SFW. And that just means they're working for one day. They started work, they worked, and they finished all in one day. Okay, so not photographed. This happens sometimes when an actor gets brought in, maybe a stunt performer, or we just didn't get to their scenes. Either way, they were brought in, they got hair and makeup ready, and we never got to them. They were never photographed. You put NP in there. Travel means they are traveling for the day. So if they are traveling to you, they get paid for that day. So TR is going to be put in there. They're going to have fittings with wardrobe. That gets put in there. All this information comes from your call sheet. It usually will come from your key second AD. They'll let you know who has fittings, who are on hold. Now, the hold, right? So the hold is gonna be, this can be a little bit confusing for some folks. So for example, if you are hiring an actor for an entire episode and they only work the first 2 days of the episode and maybe they work the last 2 days of the episode, well, after those 2 days, they're gonna be on hold. They're still paid for those days because they're contracted for that week. They're not really on, but they're on hold, so they're being paid. So we can just call them in. I mean, that happens sometimes. When an actor's on hold, you can totally bring them in. So on hold, if, for example, they are on hold, a lot of this just gets kind of dashed out, and we'll go over that in a minute. Rehearsal. So if they're in for rehearsal, sometimes they might be in for a stunt rehearsal. They might have just a quick rehearsal with directors or other actors. Then an R would just go right in this column here. So also test. That usually can be for a camera test. Some people have used it for COVID testing now, so that could go there as well. So test just means they might be there for some sound tests, wardrobe tests, COVID tests. It can go in this box here. So now we're gonna get into each line on this G. So how many lines there are, this is how many actors you can fit on a G. And sometimes you will definitely fill this up for sure. And then sometimes you might need another page. In that instance, if you need another page, down here it says 1 of 1. I usually cross that out and put 1 of 2 or 1 of 3 or how many other G's you might need. I always keep an accurate count of how many pages the G is going to be for that day. Okay, so for the sake of argument, we're going to use me as the actor. In the cast column, you are going to put the real name of the actor or whatever alias performance name that they use, okay? My real name here. And then character is going to be their character name. I'm going to be Billy. Now, for the sake of this demonstration, this is all digital, so you can see it. This is most likely, always, 100% of the time, going to be filled out hard copy. Physically, you're going to be writing this stuff in. So it is going to be my first day on set. So I'm going to put start work in there, just SW, okay? And that's all that's going to go in there. So like my real name, character, what my status is. Now, report, HMUW. That is when they report to hair, makeup, or wardrobe. Okay, let's just say that my call time is 7 a.m. I'm supposed to be at hair and makeup at 7 a.m. And you want to make sure that you are always putting either AM or PM because some people tend to forget that a little bit. And it's kind of like you have to make sure because we can be shooting at any time of night. They are saying that I have to be in hair, makeup, wardrobe at 7 a.m. It takes me about 2 hours to get ready. That's usually the average time that it takes for a woman to get ready in hair, makeup, wardrobe. So 2 hours, I don't know, maybe I could take, I think maybe I could take an hour and a half. I don't know. The report on set, work time. So this is when they are on set. I usually do when they walk to set to shoot. Sometimes you can put when they go for a private rehearsal. Sometimes you can do that. I tend to put it for when they are ready to shoot. Their hair, makeup, wardrobe ready 100% and they are going to set. So let's just say that I got there. I started walking to set at 9 a.m. Dismissed from set. That is when the first AD will say, okay, so-and-so, Amber is wrapped for the day. And let's just say I was on set for like 5 hours. Okay, let's like 9, 10, 5 hours, 6 hours, like 2 p.m. 2 p.m. I was dismissed from set. Moving on to dismiss makeup, hair, and wardrobe. This is them getting cleaned up, changed out of their costume. This is usually going to be a 15-minute grace period. The only time it's not that is if there is extensive hair, makeup, and wardrobe removal. This could be if they really have a lot of makeup that has to be cleaned off. Maybe they were in a horror flick and they got like a lot of blood on them. They had to take a shower. Maybe they had tattoo coverage. Maybe they had to take the tattoos off. Maybe they had a extensive wig on or they had a difficult costume. Whatever the case may be, if it takes more than 15 minutes, that is when you are going to put the real time, because then that's their real out time if it takes more than 15 minutes for them to get out of hair, makeup, and wardrobe. So for the sake of this, we'll say it took me a half hour to get out of makeup. If I am dismissed from hair, makeup, wardrobe half hour, that means I have to make a notation, because the production office is going to want to know why it took a half hour to get out of hair and makeup. That is when you're going to put a note down here, and you're going to put extended HMU removal. And I usually put a notation like a little star or something like that. So I'll put like a little asterisk. And then I want to make sure that I put the asterisk next to the person's name. You can put it outside the box, inside the box, it doesn't matter. Also, I'll definitely forgot to mention that each character has a number, and I usually put the number outside of this box. So I will put like, since I'm the #1 actor of my YouTube channel, boom. So I put like, I usually put, sometimes I put a circle around it if I'm real creative, but you just have to put the number. You can put the hashtag on there or whatever, but you want to make sure the number, I put the number to save myself some space, because sometimes your cast names or character names do not fit in these boxes, and it's kind of annoying, but you want to make sure the cast number goes there, real name, character name, status, when they reported, when they walked to set, when they were wrapped from set, and then when they got out of hair, makeup, wardrobe. And down here is extended HMU removal, and this little asterisk is going to match that one. That is notating that note goes for them. And if anyone has any questions, they'll like call you the next day or whatever. Like, why was it extended? And you're like, oh, because she had like all this crazy fake blood on her or something. So, okay, so NDB, we're going to get into the meal portion of this. NDB, meals. NDB is non-discounted break. This is 15 minutes for them to eat breakfast undisturbed. You're not asking them to go to hair and makeup. You're not asking them to go to wardrobe. You are not asking them to do anything during this time besides you hand them breakfast and they eat it, and they just have a 15-minute break without anyone bothering them. This will definitely be a thing with day players and people who are stunt performers. People who are bigger actors, sometimes they don't care about their NDB. They just want their food to be in hair and makeup, and they don't really want to be bothered with it, because it's like their contracts are so big that it doesn't matter to them. But in that case, you want to make sure you put it on paper that they NDB, because you don't want to accrue any meal penalties. And like I said, like sometimes the big actors do not care about meal penalties. Sometimes they don't even want to look at the G. But you want to make sure that you keep that in mind, what the NDB is for, because on paper you want to make sure that they don't go into penalty. And there's a lot of details here. If there are some things that I'm saying that is confusing, definitely ask the question in the comments for sure. So let's say, for example, crew call was at 9, right? And since Amber, the actor, was in at 7 in hair and makeup, that means my lunch time would have to be at 1 p.m., not 3 p.m. with the crew. So what an NDB does is it resets the clock on the actor, and it brings my call time, the actor call time, right, to the crew's lunchtime and their crew call. So let's just say, for example, we have an NDB for me at 8:45 to 9, right? And that would make me ready for lunch at 3, okay? So there's certain rules that go around NDBs. You can't NDB an actor if their call time is after the crew call. There's no point to NDB them. It doesn't matter, right? Because they're already in when the crew is in. And this is to, remember, align the actors who have pre-calls with the crew. So we're all breaking at the same time and avoiding penalties. Okay, so if I am in at 7, you have 2 hours to NDB me. So that means I can NDB all the way up until 8:45 to 9 a.m. And this definitely does get complicated, but after you do this for so long and you keep doing it day in, day out, it becomes like second nature. So I'm in at 7, I report at 9 to set, and crew is in at 9, but I've already eaten breakfast, so I've already aligned myself with crew if the cast PA or the first team PA NDB'd me at 8:45 to 9. This is an interesting thing, because if I'm wrapped at 2:30, I don't need to break, but since I NDB'd, then I'm safe. I don't have any penalties. Now, if you didn't NDB me, I was going to be getting about, I think, 3 penalties because of it, because extended HMU removal means that that time is going to be calculated in that dismissal time. Because if you're within the 15-minute courtesy of dismissal, you don't have to worry about any penalties if they're in that 15-minute zone when it comes to like lunch penalties and stuff like that, unless they are traveling, unless they're like portal to portal and they are door to door, which we'll get into a little bit later. So NDB, again, non-discounted break, 15-minute period where you don't touch them and they just eat breakfast. Like I said, with big actors, it's not usually a thing because sometimes they're just like worried, they just want to get through hair and makeup. And then some actors will definitely let you know and then like they want their NDB. I was dismissed, right? So we're going to start with a different actor. We're going to do number 2 here. And let's just say this person's name is like Dennis. All right, Dennis Smith. Seems like a pretty good name. He is going to be playing detective. I like to, for some, whatever reason, I like to distinguish the character name in all caps. So it's like very clear. It's easy to read. It's like, it makes it just distinguishable between like the cast name and the character name. So he's going to be playing Detective Santiago. And it is also his, it's going to say, let's just say it's day 1 of 1 and like he's also going to be start work. His call time is going to be 8 a.m. He doesn't need as much time in hair and makeup because that's just the way of the world, unfortunately. And let's say he went to set with Amber at 9. He only took an hour. He only took 45 minutes. Now, we're going to make sure that he NDBs at the same time because crew calls 9. We want to make sure that he can break for lunch at 3 as well. So we're going to NDB him at the same time. Give him the same NDB. Okay. And then we used Dennis for more scenes. So he was dismissed from set at like 6 p.m. We're going to give him the courtesy. He had nothing special, so he only needed 15 minutes to get out of hair and makeup. He was out like sauerkraut, out really quick. So 6:15. Let's just say for the sake of argument, they didn't break on time. Okay, we broke at 3:30. So that means there's 1 meal penalty. Why is there 1 meal penalty? Because if you are starting the day at 9 and you must break 6 hours after crew call or after your call time, each half hour that occurs after the 6-hour mark when you need to break, that's 1 meal penalty. So every half hour is another meal penalty. So let's say that he broke at 3:30. And then he was back in at 4. So that means we go all the way down here. We skip all of this. We don't need any, he didn't do any stunts that day. He didn't drive to set. There was no mileage given and he didn't travel to set. He was local to New York. So pretty simple. He broke for lunch at 4. Now we go all the way down here to meal penalties and forced calls. Okay, so MPV. MPV means meal penalty value. And then you have FC. Those are forced calls, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. So because he broke a half hour after the 6-hour mark, we're going to put 1L. There are 2 different types of meal penalties. There are lunch penalties and there are dinner penalties. And they are different costs to the production when they go into penalties, because penalties are there because it's supposed to be a deterrent for production to make sure that everyone breaks on time. So we're going to put 1L. After every 6 hours on set, you have to break for a meal. So that means in the morning, in the afternoon, and this is where like second meal comes in, right? I have never in all my years put a second meal on paper, and it could happen to you, but whenever they break for a second meal, you put it right here in these boxes, okay? The second meal column. He got 1 lunch because he broke a half hour after the first 6 hours, right? We gave him 15 minutes to eat breakfast. The 6-hour mark comes from 9 a.m. Then the next 6-hour mark starts at 4 p.m. So if he doesn't break for lunch at 10 p.m., that means he's going to get dinner penalties. So anytime there are anything that is not needed, I just put dashes. I just go in here and I just put a lot of these. So for example, she didn't break for lunch, right? Because she was dismissed early. We can just put that there. He didn't need a second meal, so we're gonna put dashes there as well. Some people don't put dashes, but I like to make it clear that we are not missing that information. It is not needed. These two folks are local, so we don't have to worry about any of travel time, door to door, leaving from, all that. We're gonna explain that though. We're gonna have a different example for that. This is kind of nice to actually do it this way because I wish we could type this stuff out because it just would be so much neater. So these two people were not any stunt performers, so we can put that dash there as well. You can put that there. And then also, they weren't paid for mileage. Mileage is if an actor is going to be driving more than, I believe, 30 miles to a location. I've never actually filled this out. I've never had to. So sometimes it is given to like background actors a lot. It depends on where you're shooting and what's happening. But this is however mileage, whatever you want to put. Like if they were driving themselves and they weren't provided a ride from production, then mileage is going to be a thing. But I have never used this column, but mileage is just basically the miles that they drove from home to location, and that it's put in that box. Like, and that's going to be a tally of at the beginning of the day and the end of the day. So if they drove 60 miles in the morning, 60 miles at the end of the night, that means they're going to get 120 miles there. And like we said before, since number one, she NDB'd and she got out of there before she needed to break for lunch, she has no meal penalties and she has no forced calls. And this is the actor's signature. Some actors do not like to sign the G. They don't care for it. They're just like, hey, sign for me. Some other actors, stunt players, and other performers, they definitely want to sign the G. They want to take a picture of it because it's their time card. It's the only way that they have to kind of keep track of, you know, the hours that they work to make sure that they are getting any meal penalties or any extra money that is owed to them. You want to make sure that they are signing. I don't know, let's just use this crazy signature here. He signs it. You cannot submit Gs without signatures. Whether they give you the verbal okay to sign for them or they sign it themselves, someone's gonna sign all these things. So you cannot submit these without actor signatures. Okay, so let's move on to another example. Let's say Yvette. Okay, we have Yvette with us. She is going to be playing Detective Salinger. Okay, now let's just say for the sake of argument that she's only there for fitting. So she has not started work yet. So we're gonna put FT, she's there for a fitting. Now for fittings, they report to wardrobe, right? So let's just say that their fitting time is gonna be 1 p.m. Now they do not report to set and they're not going to be coming from set. So the dashes can go there. You don't have to worry about that. Put the dash there. And when they're done with their fitting, usually fittings take an hour, maybe 2 hours. It really depends on the character they're playing, how many outfits they have, and how long production is, and how long the episode is, and how long they're on. But I would say usually 1 hour, 2 hours. So we're gonna put 3 p.m. I'm gonna make sure consistent. I have this, I don't know, I'm a weirdo. I like to have like the same type of lettering. I don't like caps and then small. So let's say they're out at 3 p.m. Now we don't have to worry about anything else. You don't have to put anything else in here. You don't have to worry about NDBs, no meals, travel, any of that. You just, if they're in for a fitting, have their name, their character name, that they're there for a fitting, they're in at 1 p.m. and they left the fitting at 3 p.m. You don't have to worry about anything else. So you can just put all the dashes all the way through. That whole thing, don't even have to worry about it. And that could be also for testing, unless it's a camera test. If they're there for a camera test, it's kind of like when they just came for regular work because they're gonna go through hair, makeup, wardrobe, and then they're gonna be wrapped from the camera test and all that jazz. And there are also gonna be a break for lunch as well if there's a camera test. Rehearsal is also the same as this. Like, let's just do another example of that. Rehearsal is a little bit different because it's gonna be the opposite. Let's just say number 4, Tony is only here for, let's just say, stunt rehearsal. I think I'm gonna stick with detectives. I don't know where I'm getting these names from. So Detective Lucian is here for only a rehearsal. So you're gonna put an R there. Now, usually for rehearsals, they're not gonna be going to hair, makeup, wardrobe. They're just gonna be there in like comfy clothes and they're gonna go up to a rehearsal space and that's it. So this is where the dash is gonna go this time. You're going to put the dash in report HMU because they don't go to HMU. So you're going to put the dash there. And you're going to put the dash dismiss from HMU because they're never going to be dismissed from there because they never went there. So you're going to have them, say they came for rehearsal at 12. And they rehearse for about 3 hours. So then they're dismissed from set, let's say 3 p.m. And in this instance, you wouldn't have to worry about any lunchtime, anything like that. Most likely they don't care to sign. It really depends. If they're stunt performers and they are recording a previs, which is where like they are doing a full-on rehearsal and recording what the fight scene or the stunt is going to look like, then they're going to want to sign it. But in most instances, like actors are not going to want to sign for the rehearsal, and it's no one's going to like kill you if you don't get them signing for the rehearsal, because sometimes they're just in and out. So it just depends. This instance, let's see, only there for rehearsal, report hair makeup time, dismiss hair makeup time, not a thing. Just them going to and from, not really set, but whatever the rehearsal space is. It might be a set, could not be, who knows. So now we're going to have another example of another actor who is going to get travel time. So let's say, for example, we're shooting in New York City and we have an actor coming in from Los Angeles. It's going to be our number 5. It's going to be Eric Sharon. He is going to be playing Carlos. He is only there for 1 day. Okay, he's only there for 1 day, so that means he's going to be a start, work, finish. So we're going to put start, work, finish right in there. Start, work, finish means they're only there. They start work, they work, they end work all in 1 day. And his call time was 8 a.m. Okay, 8 a.m. call. But since he's getting travel time, we're going to have to go all the way down here and we're going to have to figure out what time that he left his Airbnb or his hotel. This number is going to come from someone from either production coordinator, UPM, or most likely going to be your key second assistant director. They are going to know how much time that they are allotted to get from their hotel or their Airbnb to get to location. They usually have the address. They can calculate it out because usually there's going to be a van picking them up. So most of the time it's going to be in the 15-minute range. So if he has to report to hair, makeup, and wardrobe, that means he's going to leave location at 7:45. Okay, so sometimes it could be in half an hour. It just depends on what is contractually allowed or agreed upon. But most likely it's 15 minutes or half an hour. It all depends. And this timing comes from the key second AD most of the time. Now, this is where the NDB gets a little bit tricky because he is there before crew call at 9 a.m. Let's say we're sticking with the 9 a.m. example. We can still NDB him up to 2 hours, but we can't NDB him from this time, from when he reported. Because now, since he is traveling and he's getting travel time and he's coming from LA and he's what it's called portal to portal, meaning it's his work time starts when he leaves his house or his Airbnb, the hotel, and then gets back to it. He's constantly working even when he's in a van going back to his hotel. Okay, so 7:45 is when the NDB clock starts. You have 2 hours from 7:45 instead of 8 o'clock to give him an NDB. So let's just see the NDB. We can NDB him all the way up to 9:45. So we want to make sure that we NDB him from 9:30 to 9:45. And that's going to give us a nice little chunk of time to give him his lunchtime. So he can break 3:45 onwards, okay? Now, let's say that he reported to set, he walked to set at 12. Okay. We didn't have to put him in the first scene because, number 1 and 2 had their scenes. It's fine. He was there a little bit later. So, and he didn't walk to, set at 9 a.m. So you can afford to NDB him a little bit later. Like I said, you can't NDB an actor if they're called in after a call, but you can go after it. As long as it's in that 2-hour window. Remember the 2-hour window from their call, if it's pre-called. So because we have till 7:45 to 9:45 to NDB an actor, you can go all the way to 9:45 and it's fine. Even though it's a little bit after crew call, because breakfast is still available. Because breakfast is usually an hour after and like hour or so before, depending on like what the UPM sets up. He goes to set at 12 p.m. and let's just say we wrap him at 11 p.m. He is done. He had a long, long day. It was like the Carlos show because he's only there for 1 day. So we're shooting a lot with Carlos. Okay. So he was wrapped at 11 p.m. And he didn't really have any bells and whistles, so we gave him the 11:15, the 15-minute courtesy. He's totally out by then. When he's out of hair, makeup, and wardrobe, that is when he leaves from location. Okay? And I forgot to mention that the arrive on location. So 15 minutes, he left from location at 7:45. He got there at 8 a.m. and he reported to hair and makeup at 8 a.m. and DB'd from 9:30 to 9:45. He wrapped at 11. He got out of dismissal of hair, makeup, and wardrobe, got in his van, got home. So he left for location at 11:15. And then he got back home at 11:30 because we're allowing that 15 minutes. Hopefully it times out because some people worry that they'll hit traffic. But sometimes they might get 15 minutes in the morning or half hour at night, or you might hit rush hour traffic in the morning, so they might get a half hour in the morning or 15 minutes at night. It all depends on what was agreed upon. And all those answers come from the key second AD. So he left location, meaning left base camp, left hair, makeup, wardrobe, on his way home, 11:15. And he arrived back at his hotel at 11:30 p.m. He broke for lunch at 3:30 with the rest of the crew. Broke from 3 to 4. So we want to make sure that we put there any meal penalties or anything like that. Now, let's just take a look at our times here. Okay, so since he NDB'd from 9:30 to 9:45 and he broke for lunch at 3:30, that means he's in the safe zone. So he could have broke for lunch all the way up until 3:45. So since he broke for lunch at 3:30, he has no lunch penalties and he's totally fine. Now let's take a look if he gained any dinner penalties. Okay, dinner penalties start 6 hours after they're back in from lunch. So that means he had to have broken for a second meal at 10 p.m. Now we wrapped him out at 11 and then he was out of hair and makeup 11:15 and then he got home at 11:30. So because he is portal to portal and because he has travel time, his penalties go all the way until he gets back home. We're gonna take 10 p.m. and we're gonna count from 10 to 10:30, 10:30 to 11, 11 to 11:30. That's gonna be 3 dinner penalties. There are some production that have argued about whether or not the penalties will keep going until they arrive at their hotel. It is in fact a rule from SAG that if they are portal to portal, the penalties go until they arrive at their house. So yes, it is a thing. You can check with SAG 100%. And this may change based on contracts that are agreed upon every July. But for the most part right now, like if they are portal to portal, meaning once they leave their hotel, they work for the day, and once they get back to the hotel, that is their entire work day. So this person worked from 7:45 in the morning till 11:30 at night, which is a pretty crazy long day if you ask me. Just to fill this in, he did not do any, there's no stunt adjustment. There's not normally stunt adjustments. We're going to get to this box next. There's not normally stunt adjustments for anyone outside of stunt performers. And since he was driven, he doesn't get any mileage. Okay, he doesn't get any mileage, and then let's just say he signed it. He totally signed it. He was happy to be there. He was like, yes. We have 5 very different scenarios here. We have fittings. So now let's just say that it's the second day of production, right? And someone worked yesterday but didn't work today. This is what it's going to look like. Let's say number 6. And if they didn't work and they haven't started work yet, they don't go on the G yet. That's just one really quick note. If they haven't started their work yet, they have not gone to G. That's why I said let's just say it's day 2 of 9. Okay, I'll put it up here just for the simplicity of it. It's day 2 of 9. Okay, so we're going to have Elizabeth on with us. She doesn't have a character name. She's just called Sister. And because she worked yesterday and she's not on today, we're going to have her on hold. So all you have is an H there. Then all you do is have like a lot of lines. Just have a lot of lines. On hold, dash all the way through, does not have to sign it because she won't be there. Okay, so this is what it looks like when someone's on hold. I think those are all the scenarios, and we can go to stunts now. So stunts, they're gonna have like, you're gonna have a stunt coordinator, and that'll look like this. The stunt coordinator is usually always number 100. Chris Smith is going to be our stunt coordinator. You can sometimes abbreviate if you can't fit coordinator in there all the way. Because sometimes like the boxes are a little bit smaller than other Exhibit Gs depending on what the project is. For the most part, stunt coordinators and stunt performers are always start, work, finish. They have like a new contract like every day, even if they're on every single day, unless they have a special contract. But most of the time they are going to be start, work, finish. Because stunt coordinators are not going to be getting ready in hair, makeup, and wardrobe, they do not report to hair, makeup, wardrobe. They report straight to set. Now, they could come to base camp first, it doesn't matter, but either way, on paper, they report to set. Let's just say we start a stunt thing at 3 p.m. Okay, so they went, their call time was 3 p.m. Stunt players running at 3 p.m. So he reported to set 3 p.m. Let's just say that also the stunt thing was over at 6 p.m. And then also you just have a dash for their dismissal time because, again, they're not going to be going through hair, makeup, and wardrobe. So then you don't have to worry about any of these NDBs, anything like that. They're not going to get any travel time. The stunt coordinator will not get any stunt adjustments because they're the ones that give the stunt adjustments. They didn't have any meal penalties either because they were only in for 3 hours, right? And maybe they did break for lunch because they broke with the company. On paper, he probably could break for lunch. Sometimes if they're there for rehearsals or whatever, they might be doing rehearsals during an actor's lunch. It all depends. Stunt coordinators are not usually going to be there for a pre-call, but it all depends. There might be sometimes where it might. They might be there earlier than their call, but it doesn't matter. If someone's there earlier than their call, that's not any of your business. You don't have to account for that because that's on them. They want to be early. You don't usually have to worry about NDBing them unless their pre-call is earlier than crew call. Then you have to worry about NDBing them, and you want to make sure that they NDB. Which stunt performers, what day players, you want to make sure you tell them to their face that they have to NDB. This is their time. You are NDB'd from 9:30 to 9:45 or whatever the time may be. So let's go on to a stunt player. People who are stunt performers, they always have like 100 or 200. They're always going to be in the hundreds. And if they are a stunt performer and they're doubling for a principal actor, so for example, this person might be my stunt double, right? Because I'm number one actor up here. So DBL, I usually just, you can spell out double if you want, or I just put DBL to kind of just shorten it a little bit. And they're also going to be on for only one day. Like I said, most of the time stunt players only have contracts for the day, even if they're on for every day, start, work, finish. Let's just say for the sake of argument, stunt double Billy was there at 2 p.m. getting ready and went to set at 3 p.m. And they're going to do a stunt from 3 to 6. And obviously, since this person is going to be doubling Billy, they are going to be in hair, makeup, wardrobe. So you want to make sure that they have their dismissal 15 minutes. Probably not that extensive, but I will say that stunt performers will be down to the minute. If their dismissal time is more than 15 minutes, they want it to reflect whatever it is to the minute. And you have to just put like a little note there. So we're not going to worry about any NDBs and all that jazz because they're there way after call. So NDB, you can just put the dash there. But let's just say that they broke for lunch at 3:30 with everybody else. 3:30 to 4. They're not portal to portal, so we don't have to worry about any of that because they are locals. It's lovely when they're locals. We just put like nice dash there. Now, because stunt double Billy did a crazy like jumping from roof to roof and it was pretty dangerous, the stunt coordinator is going to want to give them some money, some extra money. And they're going to be like, you know what, let's give Sally $500. And this number will come up from the stunt coordinator. They'll either text it to you, tell you in person, come up and fill it out themselves on the G. Whatever they want to do, it's their style. But they're telling you that, you know, the stunt that they just did was risky enough to reward them with $500. There is no mileage because they are local and we weren't very, very far. And they didn't get any penalties, so we don't have to worry about that either. With stunt people, they want to make sure that they are signing it for sure. So we've discussed a lot of different scenarios, just regular. We have talked about NDBs, we talked about meals, travel time, on hold, start, work, finish, fittings, rehearsals, all of that stuff. Now, the only thing we really have not discussed that's on this form is the force calls. Now, what I will tell you is this. most productions do not like to force call an actor. Now, what does forcing the call mean? So for SAG actors, they are, I don't want to say allotted or rewarded, or they get 12 hours of turnaround. And turnaround is their hours of rest. A forced call is when you invade someone's turnaround. It could be camera, actors, assistant directors, anyone who's in a union that gives them a certain amount of turnaround. And what is turnaround? Turnaround is going to be the amount of rest away from set. So that is the time they are walking away, wrapped from set, to the time they come back. Invading someone's turnaround is a forced call. For actors that are a part of SAG, they get 12 hours of turnaround. If you invade their turnaround, it is expensive. I don't know exact numbers, but all I know is it is expensive. So let's just say we take Dennis. We take number 2. We wrapped him at 6 p.m. Now, we're not going from his dismissed from hair, makeup, wardrobe. We are not talking about that time. When he was dismissed from set. Now, if we call him in the next day at 5 a.m., that means we've invaded his turnaround by at least 1 hour. And that would be notated just like this. It'll just be, all I put is FC in that box. That's all I would put. Like, now, this is just an example of, let's just say it's day 3. You know, I'd have to start a whole new G day 3, and we have Dennis in at 5 a.m. Well, we force called him. And usually I would put it to the side. I put a slash in there if there's any dinner penalties or anything like that. When force calls notated, they'll figure out how many hours, how much money, and how much that they're owed. Because sometimes it's like, for every hour, I think it's like your day rate or something. It's crazy. I don't know the exact numbers. You don't have to know the exact numbers, but you need to know when you have to notate it. So if you're on a run of a show and you know you wrapped this actor at 6 p.m. and the key second AD is like, okay, they're going to be in at 5 a.m., they'll usually give you a heads up that, yes, we are going to force call this actor, and you have to notate it on the G. So what do you do with this document once the day is done? Let's just say we're wrapped for the night. What do you do now? Once everything is all filled out and you have everyone's wrap time, penalties, everyone's signed out, now you're going to hand this paper to an assistant director. They're going to correct it, figure out if things need to be changed, because you're definitely going to make mistakes on the G, so don't worry about that. You're definitely going to make mistakes. I don't want anyone to freak out about it, and that's what you're there for, because PAs, you can't know everything, but that's what the ADs are going to be checking it for before it gets submitted to the office. So the ADs are going to look at the G, make sure there's no mistakes, make sure the penalties are all right and calculated correctly, make sure the travel time is all good, and because they might know something you don't, who knows? They're like, you know what? We said that we're going to give them a half hour of travel time instead of 15 minutes, so everything would have to be adjusted. And hopefully you would know that at the beginning of the day, because then that really affects the amount of meal penalties and stuff that you would have to correct. So there's a little space down here where the assistant directors, once they've made their corrections, they approve it, they're going to sign for it. Everything's all good. They sign it here. Okay, once it's signed for, you are going to put it in the football. It's like a little folder that goes between set and the office. You want to make sure it's submitted and it goes to the office, and make sure the hard copy goes to the office. Now, what I will say is that once you finish a G, take a picture of it. Take a picture of it before the physical copy goes to the office. You want to make sure everything's filled out and everything's signed for, it's all approved. You take a picture of it for your records, because I can't tell you how many times that has saved me. So you want to make sure you have a picture of it. You have to refer back to it. And sometimes someone's going to want you to send it to them. It depends. Sometimes also, like, a stunt performer will be like, hey, did you get a picture of it? I forgot to take a picture. Then you send a picture of a G, which is totally fine, because it's their G if it's a stunt performer. Like, they have a right to see the G. It's not like you're hiding it from anyone. Remember, this is a time card. So once it goes in the football, once you are all done with it, then you can go home, and that's it. So that is the Exhibit G. It is kind of complicated when you're getting involved with, like, the amount of hours, the meal penalties, and all that jazz. So it does take a little bit getting used to, for sure. And I don't want anyone to kind of feel like they can't get this, because once you start doing the G over and over and over again, you're definitely going to get the hang of it, and then you're going to start training people on it. So if you have any questions, and if something is like, I didn't really understand, I can totally expand on it. Just ask your questions in the comments and I will go over it again and I will just try and answer as best I can.